Each one of us has a story. Our journey has and is continuously impacting us. By listening to my guests share how they are discovering their best self, you will discover the best part of you. And welcome to Discover Your Best Self podcast. You guys, I'm so excited because I have a special guest with me today, and he is the founder of ICONTALKS. The ICONTALKS is, impactful because they bring together influential people like entertainers and actors, activists, CEOs, people who are making a difference in their communities. And we want to learn from John Burns who he is and where he comes from and how he came up with this great foundation and event to celebrate these wonderful people. So, John, thank you so much for coming on to Discover Your Best Self podcast, and tell us a little bit about, who you are and where you're from.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you having me. This is a great platform. So I'm interested in kind of learning more about you and what you're doing, and also kind of just chatting generally about me too. But I actually co-founded Icon Talks along with a partner of mine named John Hartsfield.
Mm-hmm.
We both grew up in Texas and really understood the importance of giving back,
Mm-hmm.
and also worked in the media entertainment space as well, and understood the platform that celebrities and people of stature to that type of stature have and the eyeballs that they receive. And so we wanted to use our relationships and our network to ultimately move the needle when it comes to empowering content, inspiring people, connecting with people, and engaging people, and simultaneously entertaining people. And so we created this platform initially just to support a nonprofit that we had based in San Antonio that provided mentorship and empowerment programs to kids in underserved communities. And as a result of that, the nonprofit, we thought we could utilize our network and our relationships to create the speaker series that could fund the nonprofit. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the genesis of Icon Talks.
How long has it been? Or so you had the foundation first?
We had the foundation first, yeah. So we
Okay.
were doing mentorship programs in schools in Texas, and haircuts for the homeless, and homeless initiatives, and also some other work in Africa as well on the nonprofit side. And then we just kind of had a great cool concept. And then ultimately we put it into motion. And the first event we did was about 8 years ago,
Okay.
and we launched it with Chaka Khan.
Oh, awesome. So how
Yeah.
how was that when the first time you did it with Chaka Khan? First of all, what was the process and being able to get her to be a part of it? And then once she did it, what were her reactions?
Yeah, everything's in the process. It's such a great question because I will never forget those grueling days, man. We were on the phone every single day using our relationships, calling people, and no one really wanted to bet on us. It was
Mm-hmm.
the first time. It's not many people want to do something when it's the first, right?
Yeah.
It's not really a proven concept.
Right.
But we understood our vision, we understood what we could do, and we understood our work ethic too. So I remember, me and my partner John on the phones day in day out, calling our mentors, calling other people to really try to see what they could do. And ultimately, Shaka Khan said yes. And
Mm-hmm.
what was kind of the overwhelming part was, you think about these concepts, but you don't oftentimes think about the budget that you really have to wrap around some of these concepts. And for us, the first event that we chose, because we wanted to be a really polished, very luxury type brand, we
Mm-hmm.
picked this brand new state of the art facility in San Antonio that fit 4,000
Oh,
people,
wow.
right? So our first event was 4,000 people. We got Shaka Khan to not only do a one-on-one conversation with me before a live audience, but she also performed.
Mm.
And we honored five local area women icons. And she actually did a musical tribute to them where she sang "I'm Every Woman." So it was just really, really dope because we like to combine inspiration, entertainment, and engagement, and then also have an honoree component where
Mm-hmm.
we're recognizing these leaders who are really servants to the community.
Yeah. What makes an icon, when you first decided that event, when you said, "Okay, let's pick these four women." How did you pick them?
Well, one was my mother.
Okay, okay. She a favorite. That's when favorite comes in.
Yeah, yeah. So she was an easy shoe in. But no, but, in all seriousness, now we were really identifying women who had achieved great professional success,
Hmm.
but whose true mission and purpose was based in their service to community,
Right.
right? And so the way we define an icon is not necessarily someone who's received some great professional accolades, but someone who's committed to leaving the world a better place than when they found
Right. 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 And so I understand, you had to do a lot of groundwork, you and your partner. So, what else helped you build this community of entertainers and athletes, moving forward? Was it just kind of like people started to hear who you were and, how did
Yeah,
that happen?
a little bit of both. I think people ultimately initially believed in me and my partner. I mean, we've been doing the work and providing service, especially him. I mean, he's like Mr. Community Service for so long. So people understood the core. At the core, it was something to benefit and something to uplift and something to empower.
Mm-hmm.
And then also, as people came to the different events, you leave fulfilled, right? It's very much an experience. And so you're uplifted, you're empowered, you're educated, you're inspired, you're entertained. There's so many elements that go into an Icon Talks event. We almost say it's like a BET Awards meets like a dope concert meets like a TED Talk meets like
Mm-hmm.
all these different elements all rolled to one, and we really maintain the luxury of the brand too because we really want to make sure it's a polished product.
Mm-hmm.
And so for us, as we began to work with other entertainers and work with different people in the industry, they really caught hold of the mission and the purpose and the underlying theme of everything was to really give back and be purposeful and empowering for what we're doing.
I would have to attest to that. I mean, I went to one event, and so the one in Miami, and during Super Bowl weekend, and so I was blown away as far as like just the atmosphere was very well done. It was beautiful. It was very
Thank
beautiful,
you.
and then the feeling, everything was very warm. And then the speakers, I heard CeeLo, and then Amari Hardwick. I mean, and to have them come up there and just speak from the heart, that was nice. I've never seen that side of you just see people on TV. You don't get to see them in
Right.
person and hear what their story is.
Right. And that's what it was really so crucial. Seldomly at an Icon Talks event where you talk about Amari Hardwick, the star of power, all these accolades from his professional acting career, but you will talk about Amari Hardwick, the guy that's in these poetry camps teaching kids spoken word, who's really in the community, really giving us all. But that's what we focus on, right? So we
Mm-hmm.
focus on the individual, the humanity, the person. And that's what I think is really unique. And what you might have not seen was earlier in that day, we had brought up in partnership with the Thurgood Marshall College Fund 25 young people from FAMU for
Mm-hmm.
a empowerment summit during the day. And so we took over the restaurant at the SLS called Katsuya. And
Mm-hmm.
then we had empowerment sessions like Dallas Austin spoke to the kids, Amari Hardwick spoke to the kids. We had this whole coaching seminar where we talked to them about, different skills in the workforce that they'll need. And then later that evening, the same young people came to the event, right? And they got
Yeah.
to engage and meet some, new mentors and to really meet these celebrities, but also people in the business community
Yeah.
because we all know you're only as strong as your network. So we're really, really intentional
Mm-hmm.
about making sure Black and Brown kids have exposure to people of note who they
Mm-hmm.
can leverage and work with in the future very early on.
Wow. Yeah, that's powerful to be exposed to that at that age. Um,
Yeah, and I'm sure we've done it. This is the second time we've done it too. When we went to Super Bowl last year in Atlanta, we brought the kids from Morehouse and Spelman and Clark, Atlanta, for an empowerment luncheon at the Four Seasons. It's really really important for us to maintain the luxury of our brand because we want Black and Brown kids to see that these worlds exist
to feel that.
um, and to feel it. Right? Not many
Mm-hmm.
people, even if you're very successful, are having lunch at the Four Seasons.
Right.
So for us to provide that and show them that's possible is such a significant thing. And I'll tell you one more thing about that event last year at Super Bowl. One of our honorees in Atlanta was a gentleman by the name of Troy Vincent.
Mm-hmm.
Troy is the head of operations for the NFL. So he's basically the second or third in command right below the commissioner,
Mm-hmm.
but clearly the highest African American within the NFL. He was one of our honorees. He came that evening. It was so moved by the whole experience. He ended up connecting with two gentlemen. I believe they were from Morehouse, and actually called them up on stage when he received his award and said
Mm.
he was so moved by them that if they stayed in contact with him, he'd be their forever mentor.
Oh wow.
Fast forward a few months, he took him to the NFL draft with him. He took him to a number of different games throughout the
Oh my
season. And
goodness.
so those two young men's lives have
Mm-hmm.
been forever changed. And so, that's what we're all about.
Yeah, for sure. I was just going to ask you how, the organization has affected the awardees, that are coming. That's a huge story right there. But, anyone else that you can think of significantly that they're like, this is something that's impacted my life.
Oh, yeah. I mean, without a doubt, Amari Hardwick.
Yeah.
O's been a friend of mine in the organization. I mean, a best friend of mine for for over a decade, but he's just a supporter of the organization. We actually did, after the Chaka Khan event, we did an event with Omari Hardwick in Washington, D.C., where he did spoken word poetry to live instruments. It was
Mm-hmm.
really cool. And then me and him had a one-on-one conversation
Mm-hmm.
entitled the power of you,
Mm-hmm.
basically. And we talked about just kind of purposeful existence and gaining power from within.
Mm-hmm.
And then we honored Kathy Hughes from
Mm-hmm.
Radio One, and then Reverend Jesse Jackson.
Yeah.
So Omari's been, integrally involved in the organization forever. Been a big supporter. Always come to the events, even if he's not being recognized in any form or facet, just to be
Mm-hmm.
supported.
Yeah, that's nice to have an internal champion. I know how important
Oh,
that
it's
can be.
incredible. It's
Yeah,
incredible. Yeah.
definitely. So I was looking on your website, did some homework, and
Oh, very cool.
so I love the quote on your website where it says, "Create the highest, grandest vision possible for your life because you become what you believe," and that's a quote by Oprah. And so that's very
Absolutely.
similar to how I see my podcast, which is Discover Your Best Self. But how does this directly impact you and your icons?
I mean, it's a mantra that I live my life by, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a mantra my partner lives his life by, and the people that we have in our life. I mean, we've been very blessed to have people that have these grand visions of greatness for themselves and for their families and for their communities. And so, if you can't see where you want to go, you can never get there, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so, I think for us, we like to instill those traits and those sense of self empowerment and self grandeur in the people that we work with the honorees that we are blessed to work with, but also more importantly with the kids that we mentor, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm a firm believer in what you see is what you'll be.
Yeah.
And so if they can see things, they can touch things, they can know they exist, and they can achieve anything.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, what have you found in these icons? Like, what do they have in common that you've noticed, and even within yourself?
Yeah, it's interesting because to your point you made earlier, you see these people on TV, you see them on the football field, and you don't know the individual. And we've been, again, blessed to have worked with and see in these individuals similar things that we see in ourselves. And it's the commitment to selfless service.
Mm-hmm.
And being true and pure in humanity in the sense that you want those behind you and those from your community to be empowered and be uplifted. And
Mm-hmm.
so, I mean, we really identify people to work with based upon those passions. And so, we've been blessed to work with some amazing people.
Yeah, awesome. And so, who's impacted you the most? And it may not be one of the icons. I don't know. You've come encounter with so many people, over the years. As you said, it's been 8 years.
Yeah, it's been 8 years,
Uh
and I
huh.
can tell you, I guess two people. Number one, my business partner John. He's really kind of this journey has been to go on a journey by yourself is one thing, but to really go on a journey with someone else is even a remarkable experience because you can share so many of the struggles, but also so many of the successes.
Yeah.
But I'll never forget the first. I think the first event with Chaka Khan kind of stands out to me the most
Mm-hmm.
because it was our first event, number one. And I'll never forget. I'd done a lot of TV work before and done some legal pundit work, but I'd never done like these interview type segments on the large scale. And so, of course, I was nervous. Not only was it our event, but I was interviewing Chaka Khan and so many things coming to your head. And so we were in the back, behind, the backstage area. And Khan's manager came up to me and she's like, she'd like to speak to you in the dressing room, right? And so I walk in there, and there's like a room full of people in there just hanging out, just talking, this, that, and the other. And she asked everybody else to leave with the exception of me. And she said, I'd like to chat with you. And I was like, yes, ma'am, of course, anything you want. And so we sat down and had a conversation. And I told her, she's like, tell me about what you guys are doing. And I told her about our vision and our purpose. And, these two Black men, we're so committed to our community and we want to come back to San Antonio and give, everything we can to really uplift and empower our community. And she thought that was great, right? And then she said, will you pray with me? And I said, yes, ma'am, I'll pray with you. And then she's like, well, you have to lead the prayer. And I'm like, not only do I have to interview you, this is my first event, now I have to pray with
She
you.
was testing
And
you.
yeah, and so of course, I mean, thank God we got through that. And then right before we walked out, she said, John, I'm nervous. And I said, holy shit, I'm nervous. I said, yes, ma'am, I'm nervous too. And she said, well, then she grabbed my hand and she's like, I got you as long as you got me. And then we walked out on stage hand in hand. And it was like the most magical thing,
Yeah.
right? Have someone who is such an icon to believe in you before you even really believed in yourself, which was really dope. And
Yeah.
so that moment and that imagery of our interaction has really carried me kind of forward as we push through to the events that we've done since then. So it was just a really dope, very heartfelt experience.
That was like the humanistic side. You're like, oh wow, we are having the same feelings right now about this event. It's like,
Yeah, yeah, and it was a very real conversation with her. I mean, she
mm-hmm.
opened up, she talked about everything, and I'll tell you one more takeaway from that conversation was, I asked her about her experiences, especially when she was in, really touring and everything like that, and she told me that, and she told everybody in the audience, she said, people often think my life is so grand and so exciting, but it's actually very lonely. I spend the
Mm,
bulk of my life in a hotel room by myself.
right.
And it was just like, these people, even though they might have achieved great success in different spaces, they still are human beings. And so they feel just like me and you feel.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, that's really interesting. And
Yeah.
so you're an attorney, right?
Right.
And so how has that played a space in this, or has it?
Well, yeah, no, it's been great. I'm a partner at my law firm in Washington, D.C., and my law firm is supportive of the community work that we do.
Yeah.
And I think it just continues to, I think you have to be something outside of what you do, right? And
Right.
so for me, my purpose is to be a great lawyer, but to also try to impact lives and improve our communities and everything like that. So
Hmm.
I think to the extent that, I'm still doing a great job at my firm, which I hopefully I still am, everything's been good. And so they've been
Hmm.
super supportive.
How do you balance the two? Because I mean, I know these are large events, and how many times a year do you put them on?
Yeah, we can between do 8 to 10 events a year.
That's a lot. That's
Yeah, it's
almost
a
every
lot.
month. You know.
Yeah. So it's just we have a great team. We have a great,
Okay.
great sense of community and people that support us, and team members that really go the extra mile just to be supportive. Like the whole lighting and production team drove to
Yeah.
Miami and drove to Atlanta for Super Bowl. And so we just have we're so blessed to have so much support,
Yeah.
and people that really believe in us.
So balancing your day job, the thing, with your career, what you're doing with your passion, because sometimes I think people don't think they can do both,
Right.
or get discouraged because I mean they're not small events,
Right. No,
and
no, no. They're not
yeah,
small
and so
events.
you have the foundation side where you're actually doing the work in the communities and you're there, but then you also have this high level event to raise the money for that, and then your
Right.
job that you're doing. So how do you integrate all of that to be able to get it all done, or how does that work as far as like the balance?
It's just it can be a juggling act at times. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not going to say it's easy. It's definitely very trying. It can be stressful. It can
Mm-hmm.
be anxiety filled. But I think at the end of the day, we understand we're building a brand that's very
Mm-hmm.
purposeful. And I mean, I think anything in life that's worth doing is going to be difficult, right? And
Right.
so it's not going to come easy, nor should it, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
I think the struggle is the most important part, kind of the learning through the challenges. And I think we've learned a lot
Right.
through multiple different challenges. But I think we've grown as an organization, and more importantly, I think we've grown as individuals too.
Yeah, awesome. And so I also noticed that you're a huge advocate for protecting the rights of creatives on the internet and how the
Mm-hmm.
laws have changed for creatives. And so, what do you foresee, for the future since we are forced to be in a more tech platform, with all the COVID and, everything is virtual now? You know, how do you see that as far as like creatives go? Because now as artists, or even me having a podcast, anything that's internet based,
Mm-hmm.
how do you keep that
Yeah.
integrity?
No, I think that's a great question. I mean, the lawyer, kind of speaking from the lawyer side, number one, I think anytime you're going to try to build a company or build an image or a brand, you have to treat that like a business, right? So you have to make sure that you have the infrastructure in place in terms of just the pure structure and the presentation and the materials to make sure you're conveying the right thing that you're trying to convey. Number one, so you want to treat whether it's a virtual world because everything's going virtual, right? So this content and this brand that you're building is going to be very, very vital. And then from like the IP side of things, protecting that intellectual property is very, very important, right? And so we've seen laws evolve to provide more protections as a result to all of these technological advances, but to make sure you're a student of that world, if you're going to try to play in that world, is very, very important. And I think as technology increases, there's more and more opportunity, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
think it's beginning to, I mean, we always say, and I've always said that education is a great equalizer. Combining that with technology really provides us the masses to kind of and to engage with. So we want to make sure that we're doing it in an efficient but also really educated way as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. And so, what do you see the future for Icon Talks, especially since we're in this space where we can't necessarily have mass gatherings? Have you thought about the impact that makes moving forward and how you may adjust some things?
Yeah, definitely. We're gonna get in. We've been focused on this for the last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
So more just into content, right? So we
Yeah.
have all these great events that we've done. So really beginning to put content around these events, and not necessarily going back and repackaging the events that we've done. But we have some interesting ideas about doing more intimate gatherings in the future, and things like that. But really, we've been in conversations with bigger platforms of the world like the Amazons and things of that sort about actually airing some of our content. So we're really focused on content, even if it might be, one-on-one, inspirational, engaging interviews or different things like that kind of push the needle. And then also the community service work that we do. I mean, ultimately, hopefully things will transition back to some type of normal at some point.
Right.
But in the interim, we want to make sure that we're still pushing our mission forward and the work that we're doing forward.
Mm-hmm. And what about like the students and being able to get the information to them?
Yeah, I mean, we have great relationships with the principals at the different schools that we work with, and so we've been sending different things out to the students, just maintaining that level of connectivity. But again, we're all trying to maneuver through this new world and trying to figure
Mm-hmm.
it out every day, and so it's not easy. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm blessed. Our family's healthy and safe, and so we're extremely blessed. And we're just trying to do whatever we can to support those in need while
Mm-hmm.
simultaneously trying to kind of just figure everything out.
Yeah, it's been so crazy. It's like, everything, it was so abrupt how things just stopped. It
Right.
was literally like you're planning one thing and then the next day it was like, no, you can't do that. We need to
Yeah.
adjust. And so, um, we're human and so we learn how to adjust and adapt anyway. But, just learning how to still get business done or create other forms of income and ways for us to be able to still communicate virtually, I think has been so interesting. And I'm curious and excited to see what the other side of this looks like later because, you know, it's scary, but then also the other time we'll figure it out.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, the human spirit's a strong thing, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so, to the extent that we stay together and we're collective in our action, I think you can do anything. So,
Yeah.
I'm very positive about what the future holds. I think we just got to remain positive and do what we need to do and stay safe and follow these rules and not make things worse. So, I'm
Yeah.
definitely a firm believer in that.
Most definitely. And so, how do you see the people you work with being able to continue to impact their communities? So, I know that you have your foundation, and is that year round, or is it
Yeah, year
okay?
round. Yep,
Okay.
year round. And how do I see the people, like in terms of the celebrities that we work with doing? They're all very commendable people doing their own things based upon their own passions.
Mm-hmm.
So they really kind of stay in their lane with respect to kind of the things that they support.
Right.
Just try to do what we can to be supportive of them, and
Right.
likewise they're equally supportive of us. So we're just again very very fortunate to have been blessed with the opportunity to work with these people and learn from these people.
Right, right. And so the last question I have for you, which I ask everyone, is
I love it.
how or what does it mean for you to discover your best self?
What it means to me to discover my best self is to discover my purpose, right? And and I think purpose is such an interesting word, and it's interesting you asked me this question because we ask a similar question with Icon Talks. And it more leans to really defining and understanding your purpose. But I think if you align your purpose, you ultimately are going to discover your best self, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
I think your best self is going to be the attributes within you that are really your drivers in life, what you're passionate about, and what you're meant to do on this earth. And I've really been blessed in the last 5 to 6 years to really understand why I believe God put me on this earth, and it's really to use my platform and use my relationships and use my curiosity with what is possible to really empower and uplift and engage other people, especially Black and Brown communities. And I think we've been super, super blessed to kind of do that, and we look forward to doing it even more. And so, to answer your question, I think it's really aligning with my purpose and just doing what I can to make an impact.
Yeah, great, great. I love it. Listen, I appreciate you so much for taking the time. I'm not sure what your crazy schedule has been going like. I know people have been on all these Zoom calls and conference calls.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so,
no,
yeah,
absolutely.
hopefully this was a little bit more lighthearted than some of the calls you've been having, a little break. But I
No,
appreciate
it
you
definitely
giving
was.
me that time. And I look forward to continuing our conversation and maybe something else happening after this.
Absolutely, and I'm proud of you. Continue to use your platform to feature people and have conversations that really improve not only this country but the world. So keep it up.
Yes, thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for listening to Discover Your Best Self. Don't forget to subscribe and comment. Follow us on Instagram at Discover Your Best Self.